there's every excuse. Everyone. Any excuse will do. I remember one time someone said, "You were late to dinner," and I said, "Yes." And as I started to respond with an excuse, they went, "Chicken soup, right?" And I was like, "Huh?" And he said, "Any excuse will do. Might as well be chicken soup." That's exactly how it is. If we don't want to do something, we will perpetuate not doing it anyhow, anywho, anyway. We can. We'll climb mountains. Trust me. I've invented every excuse in the book. So I'm going to turn this around so you don't have to look at me. And let me just get started here. I'm excited about the podcast. The reason that I'm excited is because I've worked very hard, diligently for hours and hours, and I have so much information that was, all of it was just eye-opening, mind-boggling. Every step led to a new aha moment. And it was supernatural the way everything unfolded. So how am I going to let that go and say that those 3 to 4 years were for naught, when I know that there are a lot of people out there like me that would prefer to have the truth? I guess it is true that, is that a bug? I guess it's true that every hammer thinks that everything is a nail. And so do I. I assume that people want truth. That's my highest value, my highest priority. There's nothing that would deter me from believing that truth is absolutely the ultimate goal in everything, in relationships, in endeavors, in knowledge, in learning, everything, in adventure. We want truth. I want truth. That's the point of this statement, is that I don't get how there are people that don't. My husband and I have had a very difficult time. He's very practical and very smart, but he is not a think out of the box person. He's the person that makes the box. And I draw out of every line and scribble scrabble everywhere. And so we have a little bit of a time. Add to that, and that is not what this is about. Look how pretty this is. Add to that, isn't that beautiful? Can you see it? Wow. Hey there. Come on. Add to that, I forgot where I was. Oh, that when he married me, he was 10 years younger, and I couldn't imagine why he wanted to marry me, but I had just taken a job offer in South Florida, and I didn't want to go alone. And after he asked me 3 times, I said yes. Did it take me so long because I didn't care for him? No. It's just that I couldn't see it. I had lived lifetimes, and he had never been married. But we did it. all the time. I'm an Aquarian and he's a Taurus. There are two horoscope types that everyone says don't get along. They're the beginning and the end. The world started in Taurus, and right now we're in Aquarius. And they are complete opposites. Now, add to that when he married me, I asked why. I mean, he's 10 years younger, good-looking guy, strong, muscular, handsome, smart. Why? And he told me because of my spirituality. That's a great compliment, isn't it? I've always loved that so much because you always know that beauty's going to fade, if there is any. Not assuming that I've got a lot, but you know that you're going to get old, right? Look. Aren't they so pretty? And so if your husband says, your spirituality is why I married you, wow, that's pretty cool. Because you would expect that that's something that would continue to develop, right, and grow. And I was a sweet little Christian, always interested in lifting other people. And in fact, humanity's always been my high value next to truth. And the two don't always go well hand in hand, do they? One aggravates the other. And here I am, after a horrible 10 years, where I went through a terrible depression after my investigation and figuring out that this country that I live in was not at all what I thought. And that the Bible that I had preached and studied and learned and meditated on and taken apart and put back together, all that. Ooh, I found mushrooms. Don't have a knife. I found some psychedelic mushrooms here once. And horse poop. Anyway, and I was a Trump supporter because obviously I was a conservative capitalist, because liberals were libertards, and oh my gosh, I was the typical, talk to any Christian Republican today, and that's exactly how I sounded. It wasn't that I copied what they said, it was that we were fed the same narrative. So where are you going to get a different? Sheep sound alike, talk alike, walk alike, and they have the most closed minds, and I was one for 33 years. The other day I watched a video on, these are very cool fungi. Isn't that interesting? I took one home last year, but I don't know if that's a good thing to do. Isn't that interesting? I'm gonna have to find out about that. Come on, Wall. Can't get too far down in these woods. I forgot where I was. Well, at any rate. Oh, I wanted to find out more about what was going on in Salvador at the time that I was there. It's very embarrassing. I was on TV, on the radio, and spoke at a number of places because of having gone there with the two other women through the Salvador military and the Full Gospel Businessmen. It wasn't your typical missionary trip. It was very, very different. And the experience, of course, blew my mind, but right before I went, I watched the movie Salvador, thinking this will give me some good information. Come on! There's probably a gator there. Honk! Honk! Maybe not. Not that he'd answer me. But, come on. So, I had gone as a guest with Annie Outlaw, who was doing a lot of missionary work. I was not. But it was just a mystical, supernatural connection that when he came to church, Rene Rosales, who was a guerrilla for the Salvadorian people, civilians, and had a calling from God and went down and became a missionary to try and bridge the gap, and met some people from the Full Gospel Businessmen's Association that had some money and were working with our government to encourage the soldiers. And I had no idea about any of that, but I did have a prophecy over me that said I would be ministering to men in green. Well, that made no sense to me. But that's what it was. That's a whole nother story. But at any rate, when I watched the other night, the history, well, of course I knew that they had killed the nuns, 4 or 5 nuns. I can't remember if it was 4 or 5 of them. I think 4. Catholic nuns that were doing missionary work in Salvador at the time, and they just pulled them off the road, raped them and murdered them, threw them in a hole. And then not long after that, they killed another Catholic priest there. Well, I didn't know about any of that. I knew a little. I knew it was dangerous, but I felt called of God. And so I went, and it was quite the education. My point being that I came back with such a conviction that no one was right, that there was no right. I mean, of course, I came back saying there's only one right, and that's Christ, and there's nothing else right. And so, I mean, love, right? Which is a word I don't like today. But, yeah, caring for our brother, the connection, that's why we're here. That's what we've got. That's all we've got. So, that was quite the experience. And when I watched it the other night, I recognized what danger I was in. We were in a truck getting ready to head out when we were pulled back because somebody had been held up with guns right before us, and we stayed. We heard that they were being attacked, and so we had to choose whether to stay in the prostitutes' houses, which were safe, or the general's quarters. And so we chose the general's quarters, and when I slept in his bed, I prayed for him, but I also left little hard candies all through his bedroom, and which was the bunk room. But they told me the next day when I did that, they called me Cindy Tortilla, because that's all I would eat, tortillas and Cokes. But the next day they told me it would be funny because the cucaracha would probably get the candy before the guy did. So when I give myself to something, I guess the point is I go all out. I don't do things halfway. That's like this investigation. Excuse me. I wasn't going to walk into this and just play around with it. I wanted truth. And unfortunately, we have to be really careful what we ask for, which is a whole nother talk. Because that statement is worth a fortune. Being careful what we put out, how we see it going, and what we sabotage. So what I decided to do was take the yucky part and put that in a section, and then try and share what I know to be true. Now, why did I say that this will break every rule? Well, Mr. Beats, who has the most, he's a millionaire from YouTube. I watched him the other day and he says, just upload anything. They just want content. They don't care about you. And I gave that some consideration because I have so much content. Not all of it's recorded, but if I just threw it out there and let people pick up what they wanted, I'd be busy for 10 years. But all day long, I've been trying to figure this out. And here's the deal. Part of my problem with society, with this program, with this setup that we're in, this construct, is that it's proportioned and divided and separated and quarterized. And that is our problem everywhere with everything. No one has the whole picture. And so this is my story. I'm a storyteller of truth. And this is my story of where I came from, what my perceptions were, right and wrong, what I looked for, why I got so disappointed, and how I figured it out. If you don't like that part, that's okay. There will be plenty of content, but I just don't know how to start anywhere but at the beginning. And the beginning is with me because it's my story. It's your story too. But it's my perceptions that led me to find what I found. And without understanding that, I don't think we can properly judge. Besides the fact that that's the way it's easy for me, and because I've had it on my heart for years to do a bio, and my goal is to write my life story in a way that every single character is valued and appreciated at the end of the story. And I believe I can do that because I see the worthiness in people. All of them, even the ones who've hurt me most, I can see their value in my story. And my story became their story. And when you think to listen or to remember a lesson that I've shared, I'm hoping that you'll remember, oh, it was Mrs. Green that taught her that lesson down in the bayou under the tree. Because that's how I learn the most, from people around me and from nature and from reading. What will this include? Well, my original book was Don't Conform, Connect, about how life is about nothing more than figuring out who we are, why we're here, and what we're going to do with it. And so I have so much teaching on that. I was a Covey facilitator and leadership trainer, and I've got multitudes on that. However, everything that I did in the past was tied to Christianity, because that was my foundation. And being a patriot, those were the foundational blocks that every truth built upon and created for me a platform to live. The problem was it was a false platform. And so the past few years have been ones of refining myself, redefining myself, reevaluating my mission, looking at reality in the face courageously, knowing that if I'm here, then I'm going to do it well, whatever it is that's coming. And that's going to require character from what I'm seeing and hearing. Wallace, come! Wallace! Wallace!